Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I'm Dashen, Usman. The top stories this hour. House of Representatives Speaker Tajuddin Abbas tasks security forces to rescue health workers and patients kidnapped in Kaduna. Angola's government faces backlash over laws curbing free speech and assembly. Djibouti intervenes in tensions between Ethiopia and Somalia with port sharing arrangement. Details of these stories and more shortly. News Central now at this hour begins in Nigeria's capital Abuja, where the Department of State Services DSS released Nigerian Labour Congress President Joe Ajaero late Monday after detaining him for about 15 hours. Ajaero was arrested at 7 a.m. local time on Monday at Abuja's Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport while heading to the UK for a World Trade Union Congress event. Ajaero's lawyer, Abubakar Marshall, confirmed his release but said the DSS seized Ajaero's passport and required him for further questioning if needed. The arrest sparked criticism from Amnesty International and others who condemned it as an attack on human rights. The NLC called the arrest an escalating crackdown on civil space, while another lawyer, Maxwell Okpara, argued that Ajaero had informed the DSS of his travel plan. Away from that, the Department of State Services has clarified the visit of its officers to the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SARAP office in Abuja on Monday. In a statement on its website, the DSS denied allegations of an unlawful raid, stating that the visit was part of a routine investigation by two unarmed agents. The agency insisted the visit was misconstrued as harassment and intimidation. Meanwhile, SARAP has condemned the DSS's actions, calling it an invasion and an assault on the human rights community. They urged President Bola Tinubu to order an end to the intimidation and harassment. SARAP also expressed concerns over the growing crackdown on human rights and called for a thorough investigation into the incident. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has launched the Device Management System to register and regulate all mobile phones on communication networks nationwide. The system is part of the NCC's new Type Approval Business Rule 2024 and requires all mobile network operators to connect to the DMS platform. The DMS will act as a central equipment identity register, tracking mobile devices through their international mobile equipment identity numbers and synchronizing them with global databases. The initiative aims to enhance security control on approved devices and also prevent mobile theft and fraud. Unregistered devices will be blacklisted, making them unusable within Nigeria. Reports say armed soldiers stormed Okama, a town in Delta State's Ughelli South local government area, early Monday morning, firing indiscriminately. Now, this comes weeks after the arrest of several community leaders. The incident has sparked fear among the residents as the military police and alleged indiscriminate shooting have raised concerns about the safety and security of the community. Now, local authorities have yet to comment on the situation. News Central correspondent Austin Azu joins us to give us an update on what he has learned about the attack so far. Hello, Austin. Please go ahead and give us that update.
Good afternoon. Earlier we went to Ewu Grammar School, the IDP camp, where the displaced inhabitants of Okama were provided by the state governments to take refuge pending when he is able to resettle the people at the ancestral home, which happens to be Okama. And however, we spoke to some community leaders who told us what happened yesterday. Obviously, it has been confirmed that it was armed soldiers that went to the community, according to what the community leaders told us, that they came into the community from both land and water. They came in from the neighboring community, which happens to be Okoloba community, and they came in from the water They came in with three gunboats, and they came in with 11 speedboats, all of them armed. And they came in and they started shooting periodically from all ranks of the community. And not only that, the residents and those who refuse to go to IDP camp have to run into the bush. And at the end of the whole exercise, they return from the bush and they discover that 3 people have been killed by the operation of the alleged soldiers that came to invade the community. And not only that as well, they carted away with their foodstuff, whatever that was left inside the church hall, the church building that was standing, were all carted away by the armed soldiers that came into the community.
Okay, what about the army? Have they made a statement as regards, this incident?
Well, we are yet to get official statement from the army, but what we can confirm at the moment, and that currently there is a speech to that effect. So we are hoping to get that speech so that we'll be able to report accordingly.
Okay, so you said that some of the several community leaders were arrested. What is happening to these community leaders? Are they still held? Have they been released, or are they being charged? And what are they being charged for?
Don't forget, Sue, that from the one that the Okama accident started, lot of persons were reported by the security agency, declared wanted. And these people that were declared wanted, it was only the traditional ruler who turned in himself. And since then, other people have not done accordingly. So that led to the arrest of these other people that were declared wanted. But however, the community leaders are still very much concerned about the whereabouts of these people that were arrested by the soldiers. So they are still appealing to security agencies and appealing precisely to the federal government and the state government to weigh into it so that they will be able to get their people back to the community, so that they will be able to reintegrate themselves and start the rebuilding process that the state government has started so far. So far, there have never been any indication or confirmation about their whereabouts.
All right. Well, we hope to get more update from you in our subsequent bulletins, Austin. Thank you so much. Away from that, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has condemned the abduction of health workers and patients by gunmen in Birnin Gwari local government area of Kaduna State. In a statement on Tuesday, Abbas, through his special advisor on media and publicity, Musa Krishi, urged security agencies to act swiftly to rescue those being held captive. Now he called for sustained efforts to eliminate kidnapping, banditry, and terrorism across Nigeria. The bandits stormed the primary health care center in Layin Dangauta village, Kuyelo ward, on Monday, abducting 2 nurses and several patients whose exact number remains unknown. Still talking security, the family of late Amir of Gobe, who was murdered on his way from Sokoto to his hometown in Sabon Birni following his abduction by bandits, have called for justice for the late Amir. The family members and other residents of Sabon Birni made this known to News Central's television crew as they visited the community in Sokoto State. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu reports.
The journey to Sabon Birni was filled with fear and apprehension. This is because the route has been known to be notorious for bandit activities. After a tension-filled 2 hours, we finally got to our destination.
This is the official palace of the Emir of Gobe, the late Isa Bawa, who was kidnapped and later killed. The community is currently mourning the Emir. We are right in front of the palace here in Sabon Birni, in the Gobe Emirate. We're just going to go into the private house and talk to the family members.
Our arrival at the home of the late Emir was greeted with excitement despite the pains being felt by the family and the community.
The time is that people are kidnap him. He told me, Ibrahim, is it here you are going to remember me? I said, no. So why you cannot bring them in the morning and leave this place? I told the people, We don't have that money they can demand with us. He's talking about 1 billion naira. We tell them, I don't have all. I don't. In my life, I never see 1 billion naira in my life. So that word I cannot remember with him. Sarki, before he become a chief or emir of Sambini, before he's a village head of Angola.
Lahiya lume ya yi halaye na kwarai, ya zamna da jama'a lahiya lume, ya zamna da dangi lahiya lume, kowa ya zamna da shi lahiya, bai cuci kowa ba, sai wanda ya cuce shi, sai wanda ya cuce shi.
Jin daɗi kuma suna cimami da kuka na sun rasa jigo kuma sun rasa uba wanda zai share musu hawaye. Tuni da ni ga mahaihina ne kuma ni ga suna ta koke-koke sun rasa kaza sun rasa minana. A matsayina na ɗa sai ni ma na zanna ina tunani to wani irin yanayi zan sa kaina ciki don game da irin waɗannan mutane da suka kuka ga mahaihina. Na damu sosai amma su kuma suna nuna mai ai sun hini damu. Ko shi ai wani abu na da zamu cewa Allah shi ƙara sauƙa kuma Allah shi kawo mana zaman lahiya.
Amin. Despite the fact that Sabon Birni residents have moved on, continuing their daily businesses, they however say their demand for justice is unwavering.
To muna kira wa gwamnati don Allah ta tarayya ta diba ma gwamnatin jihar ta taimaka mata da sojojin da za su iya kama mata don samun tsaro a jihar Gatamu. Muna da damuwa sosai ga talakawa mu wallahi.
Kaga dole mu yi kukan mu ga gwamnati ta duba mana game da matsalar tsaro ga babu ƙauyen gada muna da ƙauye kusan 400 da wani abu wanda annan ciki wanda yanzu haka duk sun bar ƙauyukan suna cikin gari saboda irin wa'anga matsaloli da sun ka same su. To kaga gwamnatin tarayya ta duba mana da ta jiha su duba mana su wayoyi mana ga matsalolin.
It is obvious that the abduction and the killing of the Amir of Gobe, Isa Bawa, has brought a lot of pains to the community members and his family members. It is anticipated that all the cries and the plea for justice and for peace in the community and the entire Northwest will be heard by the relevant authorities. In Gobir, Sabon Birni, Sokoto State, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for that report. Now, the Nigerian Army has dismissed reports of mass resignations by soldiers over corruption and low morale as misleading and an attempt to tarnish its reputation. Responding to claims making rounds in the media, the Army clarified that service is voluntary, allowing personnel to disengage according to established procedures. In light of this, News Central's Igbalani Omoni assesses the impact of the alleged resignations to national security.
The Nigerian military is one of the largest uniformed combat services in Africa, with more than 330,000 active personnel. These numbers are, however, getting threatened each year. In 2023 alone, 59 soldiers were approved for retirement, while 196 soldiers resigned in August this year, according to media rounds. The previous years saw 261 soldiers resign in 2022, 127 in 2021, and 365 in 2020, making a staggering 1,008 soldiers that have resigned from the Nigerian Army in the last 4 years, sparking concerns about the country's security architecture.
So again, you're experiencing a military that is constantly on the war front, dealing with threats, ranging from insurgencies that have been in the country for over a decade. It's always concerning for any military to see a high number of people leaving because, of course, you want to retain as many military personnel that you have trained over time. You've spent a lot of money to train. But people always, would have a reason to leave, for personal reasons, for family relations, maybe just as a result of the fact that they don't get enough pay.
A soldier's basic monthly salary ranges from 49,000 to 1.7 million naira depending on rank, according to the Nigerian Army website. Allowances such as hazard pay and duty tour allowance are also reportedly inadequate. But it seems the reasons for the resignations are deeper than welfare packages.
Axis of Sapana, Basari, Dutsima, Kankara, Dan Musa, We know where these people are. Just because the authorities have not shown the political will to eliminate these terrorists. That's why I support soldiers who don't want to continue to die needlessly for a battle where the government don't have the political will to finish the terrorists. The right thing is, you resign. You resign.
Reacting to the development, Director of Army Public Relations Major General Yema Nwachukwu stated that service in the Nigerian Army is not conscripted and soldiers are free to leave for medical or personal reasons.
I think I should appeal to our media to play down some of this most times instead of hyping it and causing a lot of tension within the military and the society. Some of the allegations made of corruption in the military. If there are corruption, yes, it should be condemned, but I don't think that is why the troops, the non-commissioned officer, the rank and file, should be leaving.
As the country grapples with the implications of these developments, there are growing calls for the authorities to urgently address the issues to stem further resignations and boost morale within the armed forces. In Lagos for News Central, I am Igbalani Omoni.
Time for a break now. When News Central now returns, we'll look at the impact of floods in Nigeria, Chad, and Morocco. We have details after the break. Join us again. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Right now, we have our correspondent, Joshua Imarai, who is live at Labour House in the Federal Capital Territory to give us an update on the release of NLC President Joe Ajaero. Hello, Joshua. Thank you for joining us. Please go ahead with the update.
Joe Ajaero just arrived at the Labour House where he was escorted by some members of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And I had the opportunity to spend the lead as the NLC President, where he made some shocking revelations and some shocking allegations. Joe Ajaero alleged that his phone was collected from him, and allegedly, and the phone was cloned. According to what he said he had forwarded his matter to his lawyer, the Femi Falana, and they will be pushing charges against such actions, which is described as a gross violation of fundamental human rights and right to privacy. That is one of the many things he said. And he said his passport was seized from him, thereby denying him access from gaining exit out of the country. Then he was earlier on, he was scheduled to be a participant at the UK Trade Union Congress meeting, where he was supposed to be a speaker. According to what he said, the development has stopped him from leaving the country to perform his functions as the Nigerian Labour Congress President.
Okay, so have you been able to contact anybody at the NLC, that's the Labour House itself, to confirm, what went on during his arrest?
Based on what Joe Ajaero himself said, when he was picked up by the members of the officers of the Directorate of Secret Service, he said he alleged that his phone was collected from him, and he was questioned for several hours before he was released by midnight yesterday. And his phone was allegedly cloned, according to what he said, that his phone was taken away from him, and he discovered that some shady activity was going on within his phone, which is described as a gross violation of fundamental human rights and the right to privacy, where he was grilled hours until he was released yesterday night.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that update, Joshua.
The pleasure.
Now moving on, the embattled national chairman of the Labour Party, Julius Abure, has accused Peter Obi, the party's presidential candidate in the last general election, and Alex Oti, the party's sole governorship candidate and governor of Abia State, of betraying the party and sowing seeds of internal divisions. Abure made this known during a press briefing in Abuja after the party's National Executive Committee meeting in response to allegations by several members of the party that he has mismanaged the party's funds. News Central's Joshua Marai tells us more.
Following the recent inauguration of a former Minister of Finance, Nenadi Usman, as the caretaker committee chairman of the Labour Party, this has not gone down well with the party's outed national chairman, Julius Abure. The Abure-led National Working Committee met in Abuja and accused the former presidential candidate Peter Obi and current Abia State Governor, Alex Oti, of trying to set the party on fire.
This meeting held without the authority or consent of the National Executive Council and sought to install a so-called new leadership. Let me be clear. This action was not just illegal, it was a betrayal of everything the Labour Party stands for. A reward for loyalty with ingratitude, a reward for support with insubordination.
A visibly upset Abure assured Obi and OT that henceforth there will be no more automatic ticket for them in subsequent elections, thus throwing the race for their positions open to all contenders.
We have not yanked off Alex Oti and Peter Obi. We have simply said that the doors of the party are open to others, which is democratic. If you look at Section 221 and Section 222 of the 1999 Constitution, it makes it clear that every political party is open to all Nigerians.
The embattled national chairman of the Labour Party says that popular activists Aisha Yesufu and Itua Igodalo were responsible for managing Obi's campaign funds in the 2023 general election, describing the allegation that he was responsible for Obi's failure in the polls as false. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
Abia State government says it hopes the electricity bill currently being debated at the State House of Assembly will aid the much-needed reform in the energy sector. The Commissioner for Information in the state, Okama, during a press briefing on the outcomes of the State Executive Council meeting, said the bill, when passed into law, empowers the state to generate and distribute power. Also, the Commissioner for Public Utilities, Ikechukwu Monday, said he is hopeful that the bill, which had already scaled second reading, will receive expeditious passage into law once the lawmakers resume sitting. He said the existing Electricity Act in the state did not take care of major areas that the new one has been designed to address.
Finally, the Abia electricity bill has scaled its second reading at the State House of Assembly. It is believed that the House members will fast-track the passage of the bill upon resumption from their recent recess. The passage of the bill will give further impetus to the ongoing reforms in the state's power sector.
We looked at that I'm not sure it was properly gazetted. So that you should know. We looked at it. There were inputs from that law that that we took into consideration in this law. But that law was passed when the Electricity Act 2023 have not been enacted. This is the law or that act. That's what gives us now the mandate to now put in this bill. So that's what is in that law is not enough to take care of the Abia State electricity market. We did not discard the information there. We took what is the value act. It's not an amendment. This is a brand new law. It's a brand new law. But we took some facts from there as well.
As the world marks Suicide Awareness and Prevention Day, attention is focused on global efforts to tackle and reduce suicide rates and their triggers. Nguvu Change leader Aisha Buba has stressed the need for Nigeria to decriminalize suicide attempts in Nigeria. Suicide is a complex issue with devastating impacts on families, communities, and nations. Despite being difficult to understand, suicide remains one of the leading causes of death worldwide, highlighting the urgent need for increased awareness, support, and prevention strategies. Let's now tell you that the severe flood has ravaged parts of Maiduguri, the Borno State capital in northeast Nigeria. Many residents have been forced to flee their homes as rising waters have engulfed several areas of the city. Reports indicate that many residents from the Galtemari area, one of the worst hit neighborhoods, are now stranded on the rooftops of their homes as the flood waters continue to rise. Emergency response teams have been mobilized to render support to those in need, while the Borno State government has tasked residents living in high-risk areas to evacuate immediately. Still talking flooding, but this time in Central Africa, where severe flooding has claimed 341 lives and affected 1.4 million people since July. This is according to the United Nations' latest findings. The UN's Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that all 23 provinces have been impacted, with 164,000 homes destroyed, 70,000 livestock lost, and 259,000 hectares of fields ruined. Last week, 14 students and a teacher died when a school collapsed due to heavy rains in Wadai province, and earlier flooding in Tibesti province claimed 54 lives. The UN warns of the urgent need for action and funding to address the climate crisis as Chad and the region endure torrential rains and severe flooding amid record global temperatures. We now head to North Africa, where flooding has also had a devastating effect. At least 18 people, including foreigners, have died and 4 are missing after severe flooding in southern Morocco, the Interior Minister announced Monday, updating an earlier toll of 11. Fatalities occurred in Tata, Rachidia, Tiznit, Tinger, and Torrident provinces, with victims including a Canadian and Peruvian and a Spanish national. Since Friday, heavy rainfall has drenched normally arid areas of southern Morocco. Meteorology officials attribute the floods to an extreme unstable tropical air mass causing violent cloud formations. Ouarzazate received 47 millimeters of rain in 3 hours, while Tagunite saw 170 millimeters between Saturday and Sunday. The Interior Ministry said the rainfall in just 2 days equaled a full year's worth for these regions. Coming up, Djibouti offers port-sharing deal to ease Ethiopia-Somalia tensions. We'll bring you details after the break. Djibouti has offered a port-sharing arrangement with Ethiopia in a bid to ease tensions between Horn of Africa rivals Ethiopia and Somalia. Relations between Mogadishu and Addis Ababa have deteriorated sharply since Ethiopia signed a controversial maritime agreement in January with Somaliland, a self-declared independent region of Somalia. The deal, which grants landlocked Ethiopia access to the sea, has been condemned by Somalia as a violation of its sovereignty. Djibouti's Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf announced that his government is proposing to jointly operate the port of Tajura with Ethiopia, but clarified that Djibouti has no plans to completely hand over the facility. The $60 million port, which opened in 2017, provides strategic access to the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea, a critical global maritime trade route. The theme for World Suicide Prevention Day for 2024 to 2026 is the narrative on suicide, with the call to action, start the conversation. Now, this theme aims to raise awareness about the importance of reducing stigma and encouraging open conversations to prevent suicides. In South Africa, it is estimated suicide rate is 23.5%, which translates to about 14,000 deaths from suicide per annum. And it is the second leading cause of death among young people aged 15 to 29. According to the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, there has been a noticeable increase in the number of adolescents struggling with mental health issues that often leads to tragic outcomes. To discuss this, we're joined by Senior Counselor at South African Depression and Anxiety Group, Owetu Kwaza. Hello, Ms. Kwaza. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
All right, so we're observing World Suicide Prevention Day. How does your work as a counselor align with the goals and objectives of World Suicide Prevention Day?
So while it is International Suicide Prevention Day, I think what SADC does is try to raise awareness about suicide as a whole every single day. So my job as a counselor at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group is to raise that awareness on a daily basis, to educate teenagers and other people, old as well, that suicide is a conversation that we need to have, that we need to talk about suicide, because we need to debunk this myth that if we talk about suicide, we are pushing people towards committing suicide or ending their lives by suicide. My job is to also psychoeducate about the effects of suicidal ideation, which is suicidal thoughts, as well as educate people about why suicide is a recurring issue, especially in South Africa, issues and risk factors that may raise suicide as an issue. And it's a very important conversation that we need to have. So every single day in my work, I really do try to encourage people to have these conversations, to seek help should they feel that there is maybe a drive towards suicide as the ultimate solution. So that's the work that I do. Amongst other things, it really is to bring awareness with or in conjunction to National or to International Suicide Prevention Day, but to bring that awareness every single day, because this is an issue that happens every single day in our lives.
All right, now what is the current state of teen suicide in South Africa? What are the common factors also that contribute to it?
So like you said, 23.5% or 23.5 people die by suicide, over 100,000 people. That is a very, very big number. But looking at that factor or at those numbers, 9% of those numbers are attributed to teenagers, which means that teenagers are highly susceptible to suicide, which is an issue. And that's a very alarming number, because if we're talking 9%, we're talking a very big part of the population. But we're also talking a big part of the population of adolescents and teenagers who are dying by suicide. And this is a really, really big issue. So our work is to really, like I said, bring awareness to this. But also what we then see as factors or risk factors, and how we can see are contributing factors to suicide, is commonly depression. It is things like self-harm, which teenagers normally sort of move towards to whenever they're facing issues. Things like bullying at school, right? There's pressure in the family, at home, and in the environment that they're based in to be achievers, to be upstanding family members, right? You can imagine being a teenager is a very difficult job. It's a difficult task. You're basically put into this position where you now see the world for what it is. You're no longer protected by the people around you, by your environment. So the environment to you is quite raw, right? So you're starting to see all of these things, and the effects that can have on you are quite major. And that's normally why teenagers would fall into suicide. But then there's family issues, right? Things like financial issues that happen in the home, marital issues between parents, family dynamics, which can be quite vicarious to teenagers, and then create a sort of susceptibility to teen suicide. There's an array of issues, but those are the issues that we commonly find on the ground that teenagers are struggling with. And this can be quite an issue if we're looking at it, because these are issues that are quite common in South Africa.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Olwetu Kwaza, for speaking to us on this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now we move to Central Africa, where Human Rights Watch has raised concerns over 2 new laws in Angola, warning that they will significantly restrict media operations and suppress protests critical of the government. According to the Global Rights Watchdog, the bills signed into law by President Joao Lourenço on August 29 do not meet international human rights standards and threaten the freedom of the media, expression and association. One of the laws, the Bill on the Crimes of Vandalism of Public Goods and Services, imposes prison sentences of up to 25 years for protests that lead to vandalism or service disruptions, and up to 15 years for sharing or publishing information such as photographs or drawings related to security measures in public places. Opposition activists and journalists in Angola have also condemned the laws, citing their impact on civil liberties. In other news from around the world, a series of Ukrainian drone strikes near Moscow overnight has resulted in the death of a 46-year-old woman, marking the first fatality near the Russian capital since the start of Russia's military offensive in 2022. According to local governor Andrei Vorobyov, the attack also injured 3 other people in the town of Ramenskoye, located about 23 kilometers from Moscow. The strikes coincided with claims by the Russian military of significant advances in Ukraine, capturing a town and 3 villages across the Eastern Front. Russia's defense ministry reported shooting down 144 Ukrainian drones in the wave of attacks, which also caused disruptions to air traffic at Moscow's airports. For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, can you tell us what the latest is from the region?
Well, yes, the region shook by the fact, I think, that Ukraine managed to get so far into Russia and so very close to Moscow. Now, you mentioned those 144 drones that were intercepted. Now, half of those were in the western border region of Bryansk, 20 were in Moscow, and 14 were over the Kursk region. Now, state media did report that those airports had shut down in Moscow. More than 30 domestic and international flights that served the Russian capital were suspended. Now, the aviation authority have said that 3 of those airports have resumed their operations. In other developments across the region, Russia says that it's captured 3 villages in the Donetsk region in eastern Russia, and the defense ministry has also said that it's liberated another town in the Donetsk region as well.
So what has been the reaction to this Ukrainian attack, on Russian soil?
Well, Russia quite rightly shaken and furious, in fact, that the Ukraine would dare to hit so close to their capital. Ukraine saying on Telegram that they have taken other places, other offenses, that they've downed drones that have been launched by Russia and shot down Russian drones over Kiev, Odessa, Kherson, and Kharkiv as well. And basically reiterating that there's a lot of tit for tat going on. They said that Russia launched a ballistic missile in response to their drone attack also. But it has to be noted that Russia and the Ukraine regularly have these drone attacks against each other. Now, this particular drone attack comes against the backdrop of Moscow claiming that they have more gains in eastern Ukraine. In the past couple of days, Moscow have said that they have captured 2 particular villages that are just beside a key town called Provosk in Ukraine, 24 kilometers and 10 kilometers away. So basically, while you have these drones flying very near to the Russian capital and over the Russian capital that are being intercepted, Moscow, on the other hand, are saying, look, while you're doing that, we are taking towns away from you in the eastern Ukraine.
All right. Thank you so much, Afia, for that update and speaking to us. Now, in the world of sports, the former boyfriend of Ugandan Olympic athlete Rebecca Cheptegei, who died after he set her on fire, has himself died from burns sustained in the attack, a Kenyan hospital official has said. Dixon Ndiema ambushed the marathon runner as she returned home from church more than a week ago before dousing her with petrol and setting her ablaze. Local administrators said the two had been in conflict over a small piece of land in northwest Kenya where Cheptegei lived and trained. Ndiema died on Monday night at the intensive care unit where he had been admitted with more than 30% burns. Ndiema was to face charges as police said they were treating Cheptegei's death as murder, with the former boyfriend named as the main suspect. Nigeria's junior Tigers have advanced to the quarterfinals of the FIBA Under-18 AfroBasket Championship by defeating Uganda 72-61 in their final group game. After an opening loss to Egypt on September 4, where they fell 70-57, the junior Tigers bounced back with a crucial win over Angola. Under the guidance of coach Fubara H. Onyanabo, the team secured a second consecutive victory, ensuring their spot in the quarterfinals. The final standing in Group B will be determined based on the outcome of the last group game between Egypt and Angola. Nigeria's junior Tigers are set to finish either first or second in their group. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that House of Representatives Speaker Tajuddin Abbas tasked security forces to rescue the health workers and patients kidnapped in Kaduna. We also told you that Angola's government faces backlash over laws curbing free speech and assembly. Finally, you heard that Djibouti intervenes in tensions between Ethiopia and Somalia with port-sharing agreement. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do you follow us on social media? We are at News Central TV. You can watch us on News Central Live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.